What if this summer wasn't just about running around the sprinkler, but about a massive leap forward in your child's reading or writing confidence? I've seen students jump an entire grade level in just a few months of intensive focus because they aren't exhausted from being in school. But I recognize that intensive support is an absolute investment. So that's why today we're talking about ESAs, Educational Savings Accounts. In this episode, I'm walking you through the deadlines for 6 key states, all the paperwork, and how to snag one of my limited summer intensive spots. Remember, it is never too late to become a stronger reader, writer, and speller. Well, hello everyone. My name is Tracy Young, OG Tutor Extraordinaire, founder of theliteracykeys.com, and most importantly, mom of a dyslexic daughter. Welcome to my podcast, where you'll discover ways to unlock your child's reading potential. I'll share tips, strategies, and war stories that have happened along the way, because everyone deserves to be able to read. So let's get started. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Literacy Keys. I'm Tracy Young, an Orton-Gillingham tutor. Have you been thinking about specialized help for your child? But let's face it, the price tag of high-quality one-to-one Orton-Gillingham tutoring is kind of scary. You want to do everything to help your child, but the math just isn't calculating. Well, today we're talking about something that is changing the lives of families across the United States. Educational Savings Accounts, also known as ESAs, ESA. They are providing families just like yours with other options. Now, ESA is different from an educational savings plan, which is also known as a 529. See, sometimes one little word really makes a difference. Now, ESA is not a complicated tax thing. It is essentially a golden ticket that allows you to take some funding that the state has set aside for education and use it for things that actually work, such as specialized tutoring with me here at the Literacy Keys. All right, let me walk you through exactly what these accounts are, how to apply for them, even if you homeschool. So let's dive in. Let's start at the beginning. What is an ESA account? Now, normally when you send your child to a public school, the state sends money to that school district to educate the child. But with an educational savings account, the state holds back some of the money and puts it into a backpack that stays with your child. So you, the parent, get to decide how to spend the money. Now, you aren't pulling money from the system. You're simply directing the funds to an environment that works for your child, a place where they learn best. For our brilliant, out-of-the-box thinkers who happen to have dyslexia, ADHD, that traditional one-size-fits-all bucket has a lot of holes in it. And an ESA account lets you patch those holes. I realize when I say ESA account, ESA's Educational Savings Account, so I'm kind of being repetitive, but go with me. Now, this is different from a voucher, which is usually just for private school tuition. And unlike a voucher, an ESA is much more flexible. You can use it for one-to-one tutoring. And this is big for us. You can hire an ALTA certified practitioner, like me, to provide intensive reading, writing, and spelling for your child. You can also use the funds for curriculum. If you're homeschooling, you can buy the expensive research-backed programs like the ones that I recommend. It can also be used for educational therapy, which is a lot of what we do. This is exactly how I describe what we do at the Literacy Keys. We're not homework help. We are rewiring the brain to understand language and become better readers, writers, and spellers. And there's a lot that has to happen for that to occur. You can also use the funds for technology, whether that's speech-to-text software or even specialized iPads. It's about choice. It's about looking at your kid and saying, you need XYZ. And now I have the funds to do it. So now let's talk a little bit about who can participate. Right? You have to check out your state because sometimes, whether it's homeschooling, special education students, it's going to vary state to state. Now, you might be saying or thinking, Tracy, this absolutely sounds too good to be true. My kid's in public school, or I'm already homeschooling. Sure, they're not going to give me money. Actually, they will, or they might. Let's say, actually, they might. ESA programs generally fall into two categories, and it's important to know which one your state offers. The first one is special education eligibility. So in many states, the program started specifically for kids with IEPs. That's the Individualized Education Program, or those that have a 504 plan. So if your child has a formal diagnosis of a specific learning disability, which is the fancy legal term that dyslexia falls under, one of those 13 IDEA categories, I'll put a link to another podcast where I explain all that stuff. You're often at the front of the line. Now let's talk about the second category, universal eligibility. And this is a new development. States like Arizona and Utah have moved towards universal ESAs. This means that any student who is not enrolled full-time in a public school can qualify. And this has been a game changer. Let me start with a shout out to homeschool. If you've been DIYing your class, let me start with a shout out for homeschools. If you've been DIYing your child's literacy because you can't afford a specialist, an ESA can be your best friend. In most states, you don't have to withdraw from the public system to get the funds, but you maintain your freedom to choose your own path. You can keep your favorite history curriculum and still use the ESA funds to bring me in 2 to 3 times a week to handle the heavy lifting of reading, writing, and spelling for your child. Now, I know that the paperwork can feel daunting. I do remember that I once spent 3 hours trying to figure out how to upload some silly paperwork to the state portal. And trust me, it was not working. I think I aged 5 years, and honestly, I don't need the additional years. But I promise you, one afternoon of tech-induced gray hairs is worth the thousands of dollars in services your child can receive. So I promised you links and steps, and all the links will be in the show notes. The Literacy Keys is currently an approved vendor in 6 states. If you live in one of these states, please listen closely. Most of you are looking at the 26-27 school year, which starts at the end of the summer. Each state has their own portal. In states like West Virginia and Alabama, the ESA windows literally just opened this month. In Florida, the countdown clock is already ticking, and you have until April 30th. So this is my get it done moment that I'm going to encourage you to really focus on. Please don't worry about scribbling all this down, especially if you're driving or anything else. As I said earlier, all the links are in the show notes. Let's talk about Arizona, and I'll go through these 6 states. Arizona has the Empowerment Scholarship Account, ESA, that is universal. If you aren't in public school, you qualify. They use a system called Class Wallet to pay vendors. Arizona has a rolling application process with no hard deadlines. But even though it's rolling, I'm going to encourage you to apply now. Funding starts the quarter they're approved, so the sooner you get in, the sooner you can get those funds for a summer session at the Literacy Keys. And I'll leave the link where you can apply for Arizona. The next one, Utah. And they're not even alphabetical, I just put them in random order. The Utah Fits All Scholarship is universal and amazing. It's administered through a platform called Odyssey. The application cycle for the 26-27 school year is currently active, with a primary deadline for new students around May 1st. Utah's program has faced some legal noise recently, but as of now, this current moment, it is full steam ahead, and you should get your spot in the line. I'll leave a link for the Utah application. Next, Florida. Now, the Florida program is massive. It's the Family Empowerment Scholarship, right, for students with unique abilities. They use Step Up for Students to manage the funds. They have several different options, and it depends on which category you fall into. For example, the PEP scholarship is for homeschooling, and that has a hard close deadline of April 30th, 2026. Other programs are for unique abilities. They typically accept applications through November, but they're awarded on a first-come, first-served basis. So if you're in Florida, you have about 6 weeks to get that application in. And please don't wait until the site crashes on April 29th. Again, I'll leave the link for that. North Carolina is the next state. So far, this is the 4th state I'm talking about. The ESA Plus program is specifically for students with disabilities. It can cover up to $9,000 or more for certain needs per year. The priority application window, it closed on March 2nd. However, the application remains open, so apply immediately. If funds are left over or if families drop out, those next in line get the call. And jot down the dates for next year. I'll leave the note or the link in the show notes for North Carolina. The 5th state I want to talk about is West Virginia, the Hope Scholarship. It's one of the most flexible in the country. New student applications for the 26-27 school year opened on March 2nd, and families need to apply before June 15th in order to receive 100% of the funding. If they wait until the fall, the state starts prorating the amount. And again, I'll leave the link so you can apply. The 6th one that I want to talk about is Alabama. The newest member of the club, the Choose Act, is rolling out now, and it's going to be a lifesaver for Alabama families. Like Arizona, they use Class Wallet. The application portal for the 26-27 academic year is currently open. For families already in the program, the renewal deadline is March 31st. Now, for new families, this is the time to gather tax returns, residency proof. Alabama is still relatively new to this funding. But let me ask you, is the $2,000 to $7,000 that you could potentially receive not worth the paperwork hurdle? When you apply, you're going to need 3 things. You're going to need proof of residency, a utility bill, right? Just make sure that the name matches your ID. You're also going to need birth certificate for your child. You'll also need proof of disability. It could be an IEP or a private neuropsych or some type of psych educational evaluation showing dyslexia. Now, there's one thing they want to be very clear about. These states are not just giving you money to spend on whatever. The vendors are vetted, and the states want to see that it's going to core academics. And I can say the vendors are vetted. It took me multiple weeks to go through and process all of the paperwork, exactly what each state needed. But the good news, reading, writing, and spelling are the definition of core academics. One-to-one tutoring in these subjects is covered. Now, when you work with me at the Literacy Keys, we focus on structured literacy. This isn't tutoring where we just help your child finish their homework so they don't get a 0. That's not what this is about. This is specialized instruction associated with struggling readers, writers, and spellers. Because I'm an ALTA certified, Orton-Gillingham trained, my services qualify under educational therapy or specialized tutoring. Now let's discuss how the ESA payment could work. Most of these states use a marketplace like Odyssey or Class Wallet. Once you are approved as a family, you log in, you find or you search for the Literacy Keys, or me, Tracy Young, and you pay for your sessions directly from your account. There's no out-of-pocket, there's no waiting for a check in the mail. It's seamless. Now, if you don't see us listed in those 6 states that I mentioned, reach out to me. Sometime it could take a quick email to the state to get us added as your preferred provider. Let me take a few minutes to talk about the summer intensive. Too often during the school year, our kids are so busy, they're just trying to keep their heads above water. They are exhausted by 3:30 in the afternoon. But summer is when the real magic can happen. This is where we meet more frequently. We're looking at 3 to 4 times a week, and we create a massive burst of progress. I've seen kids jump an entire grade level in reading over one summer because we finally have the time to dive deep without them being exhausted from school. And ESA accounts are perfect for this. You can use your remaining funds from the spring or the funds from a new allocation for the summer to fund these initiatives. But here's the catch. I'm a solo practitioner. To keep my instruction high quality and individualized, which is what your child needs, I keep my caseload very limited. My summer spots are already starting to fill up. If you're even considering using ESA funds for this, please reach out to me. Let's look at the calendar and let's see what we can make work. I recognize that this feels like a lot. Navigating state websites is like reading a map in a foreign language. It can be 10 times more complicated than filing taxes, and there's a reason that accountants exist. But remember, deadlines are fast approaching. Take a deep breath. The fact that you're even listening to this means you're an advocate. You're the key to your child's success. Don't you love the pun? I know, I try. So investigate these educational savings account. If you're in Utah, Arizona, Florida, West Virginia, Alabama, or North Carolina, you have a resource available to you that 10 years parents could only dream of. So your action step for this week, you're going to go to the show notes when you can, after you finish driving. You're going to click on the link for your state. Check the deadlines. Some, as I mentioned earlier, are closing soon. Send me an email at info@theliteracykeys.com and say, Tracy, I'm looking for an ESA and I want a spot for my child. Remember, it's never too late. Your child's brain is capable of amazing things. And sometimes it just needs a little bit of specialized rewiring. And now, these states just might be your fairy godmother. Well, that's all I have for this episode. So, until next week, keep looking for the wins. I'm Tracy Young. I'm in your corner, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to the Literacy Keys podcast. Follow us on social media, and most importantly, tell a friend. See you next week.